How's it going, everybody? I'm the BTC Reaper, and my goal on this channel is to teach you how to reap the rewards of trading, whether price is going up or down. So hopefully this video is catching this right now, but we are going to hop over to our total. Over on the total for the daily, we are trying to push forward. Sorry about that, knocking everything over here. Over on the total, we are trying to push forward. We are hitting that neckline again. We did make a bounce off that 674. I would watch for this to continue. If this can continue, we may be able to run forward still, but I would just exercise some caution here. Stochastic is pulling back. We do have that blue above orange, so that does give the bulls a little bit of strength, but it just happens, so just keep an eye on it. That could help push that RSI further, and that could help run price action higher. Remember that the stochastic does lead the RSI. Our VWAP, that yellow wave, is trying to push toward that neutral. It does want to break bullish, so if that VWAP can break through that neutral and push momentum higher, that big blue wave, then our money flow could gain some strength here, and we could see price action push up. That money flow is the green wave. Sometimes it's red, depending on if it's bullish or bearish. If it's bearish, it's going to be red. If it's bullish, it's going to be green. Remember, neutral for our VWAP, momentum, and money flow is the 0 area, and then below is bearish, meaning we can sell off, and then above is bullish. That means we could increase in price. So that could be very positive for us. I will hop over to the daily here on Bitcoin dominance. So Bitcoin dominance is starting to roll over. RSI is starting to weaken, as stochastic does want to pull back here. VWAP is in the bearish territory, causing that momentum to push down. If that VWAP continues to favor more bearish, momentum will continue to pull back, and that money flow could end up selling off. That would then result in price action dropping, most likely, unless Bitcoin goes up while total goes up higher than Bitcoin. Remember, that's one of the scenarios where dominance can decrease. If you look at today, Bitcoin went up about 1.3%. Sorry, trying to look around the mic. Bitcoin went up about 1.3%, total went up 1.9%. So Bitcoin went up less than total, but it still went up, and dominance slipped. Our RSI does want to pull back, stochastic wants to pull back. That VWAP is favoring that bearish territory, so I would just watch. Over on this 4 hour here, we are starting to pull back after trying to run forward. I would just exercise caution. Remember, a quick run up. Welcome to the video. A quick run up is always retraced by a run down, usually, so I would exercise caution. If we start getting more favorable bearish momentum on the lower time frames, our VWAP's likely going to weaken, momentum likely will continue to pull back, and that money flow could continue to weaken as well. That would result in dominance starting to slip from here. Over on our 2 hour, we do have a bearish engulfing candle. That bearish engulfing candle does want to bring us lower. Stochastic is starting to pull back. RSI is starting to follow with it. VWAP's pushing down. The momentum does want to round away, and the money flow is in the bearish territory. So if that VWAP cannot make a bounce or sustain in this bullish territory, we could still see momentum round. That would then bring money flow lower. And if that VWAP and momentum weaken and money flow weakens as well, then price action likely would follow below this EMA level. Over on our 1 hour, we are trying to make a bounce off this blue EMA, so that could be positive if we can continue to run up from here. Our stochastic does want to pull back. RSI is starting to push away. Momentum starting to round away with a red dot as that VWAP breaks into the bearish territory. If that VWAP cannot bounce from here, we will see momentum continue lower, and that will weaken our money flow. It is already heavy in that bearish territory, and that would set the higher time frames up to sell off even further and continue to drop away. Over on Bitcoin futures for the daily, we did make a bounce off our 69K, but I would exercise caution. This could be a long upper shadow candle. Remember, a long upper shadow candle can bring you lower. It is a green candle, unlike the red one we had back here. So I would still watch the lower time frames in this instance. Our stochastic does want to pull back. We do have that blue below that orange line, so if that blue remains below our orange line, RSI could continue to weaken. It is slightly weakening with slight lower highs, so I would just watch very close, as that could bring price action lower. The momentum does want to round away. Our VWAP is in the bearish territory, and the money flow is struggling as well. If our VWAP cannot break through this neutral, we will see that momentum reject, and as that momentum rejects, money flow would weaken, and as that money flow weakens, remember, price action could pull back. So that's why you want to watch these lower time frames. They're going to tell you if we can continue up or not. Over on the 4 hour, we did run up and then we just dropped down. We are retracing some of that gain. Again, that could be very healthy because you want to see these ins and outs where you get a little bit of a retracement and then a continuation. Again, you don't want to just go straight up, because if you go straight up, likely you're coming straight back down at some point. Our stochastic does want to round away here. RSI is pulling back. That VWAP does want to pull back. We are favoring bullish though, so as long as that VWAP can stay in the bullish territory, or we get a very weak peak into the bearish territory and then flip back for a bullish trend, momentum could then continue to be bullish. Money flow would remain in the bullish territory and remain green, and that could help push us above the 69k and hopefully break through that 70k resistance. If you look here, we have a lot of consolidation right between 69.6 and about 74. So this is a resistance area. If we break above it and can make a bounce and continuation from it, then we could see higher highs. However, right now it's acting as a strong area of resistance, so you do just want to watch and exercise caution because there is a chance of rejection. Now over on this 2 hour, we do have a little bit of a gap as we pull back. This could set us up to continue to run up after we broke our 69k with a quick run up. So this could be very positive because that's that bearish momentum you need, and then it'll give us some bullish hopium because a gap has an 80% likelihood to fill. Remember, we covered that on the Mastering the Trade, just like how to set up all these indicators. We are using our Market Cipher B edits and Market Cipher A free version. These are all free. You don't need to pay a few $100. That VWAP is pulling back. Momentum is starting to round. Stochastic is pulling back. RSI is pulling back due to our stochastic favoring more bearish. If that VWAP does not make it bounce off this neutral or get a very weak low like it did back here and then make a bounce back into the bullish territory like right here, then our momentum could round and money flow could remain bearish. However, if our VWAP does make a bounce here or bounces through that bearish territory like it did back here, then we could continue to push up. We could get a little bit of consolidation and a run up. Hopefully we consolidate above where this drop is and consolidate in this range. If we consolidate just on this candle body, that would have the chance to give us a bear flag. So watch out for that possibility, but that doesn't have to happen. It's just something that could, as this is a strong area of resistance. We did kind of pull back. We tried to run up. Remember, we did have that gap at that 69.6, and we did run up to fill it. So now that we filled our gap, we are starting to pull back. We can hopefully make a bounce from here. If we do make that bounce from here, that could help propel us up, and then we could see new highs. However, if we fail to bounce from here, it's very likely we would break that support. So our momentum is pulling back. We do have a red dot as that VWAP breaks into the bearish territory. You want to see this VWAP make a higher low, followed by a consistent or higher high, or at least a favor in the bullish territory after breaking back into the bullish territory. Otherwise, if we start favoring more bearish, momentum will continue lower, money flow can break down, and if that remains for several candles, we will see the higher time frame start to pull back and weaken, and then we would have the chance of breaking our 69k. So if we end up breaking that 69k, that's where I would watch for those support levels still of our 300 EMA right around 67k, and then our support level at that 65.5. Now over on Bitcoin for the daily, we do have a long upper shadow candle here too that could be forming, so I would exercise caution because that could try to take us lower. Our stochastic is overall pulling back. RSI is pretty flat, but if our stochastic continues to weaken, that RSI likely would drop lower. Momentum is pulling back. VWAP is rounding away, so if that VWAP continues to round away and rejects that neutral, we could set up lower lows with lower highs that would then cause momentum to drop away, and our money flow could start to sell off and give us the momentum to drop lower. So again, just like futures, as futures does lead Bitcoin, I would watch for a rejection of this consolidation range. If we reject that consolidation range, that's likely where we could continue lower. Our stochastic is making a bounce, but it looks like it does want to round, so I would exercise some caution that could end up taking us lower if we're not careful. Our RSI did run up as our stochastic bounced, but now that the stochastic looks a little wavy, our RSI does want to pull back. Our VWAP is in the bullish territory, that yellow wave, so that is positive. If that yellow wave can remain in the bullish territory, then our VWAP could push that momentum, our blue wave, further, and then our money flow, the green wave, can make a bounce as well and continue forward. Remember that money flow takes a little bit of time to react. It's not going to happen on the next candle, most likely. We do also have a long upper shadow on this 4 hour too, so I would just exercise a little bit of caution. Remember, those do show that the bulls tried to run us up, but bears are gaining control. Over on the 2 hour, we have a bit of a rounding top and a consolidation, so this could create a bear flag here that could end up breaking us lower if we're not careful. Again, watch for that 300 EMA. If we break below and hold, that's where we could see further price action decreasing. That momentum does want to round away. VWAP is starting to pull back, but we do have higher highs with higher lows. So if we can continue to favor more bullish here, momentum could continue forward, money flow could gain some strength, and price action could continue to new highs. But again, just watch for a bearish break. Over on this 1 hour here, we do have some lower highs. We are getting consistent lows, so this does create a bit of a descending triangle. So if you remember anything we cover on the Master in the Trade, we do cover the common patterns, and this is one of the more common patterns. So you get your flat bottoms, your decreasing tops, and you draw from your top to your support, your resistance to support, and then you apply that to your breakdown point. That would give you a push right around that gray EMA of 67.9, or just shy of 68K, which is also a psychological support resistance. If you don't know what that is, again, visit the Master in the Trade series. But our stochastic is weakening, RSI is pulling back, the momentum's overall rounding away, as that VWAP favors bearish. So if our VWAP cannot pick up bullish strength here, momentum will start to continue lower, and that money flow could break bearish, weakening the higher time frames and possibly pushing us lower if we cannot bounce off of that EMA level. Excuse me real quick while I try and take a drink. Again, if there's any other coins you'd like to cover or have me cover, we can cover those. We do usually stop at ALGO, but we can cover other coins. If you are not interested in one of the coins, say, hey, can you cover X instead of Z? We could take that into account. Stochastic is pulling back, RSI is pulling back, momentum is rounding away here. That VWAP is favoring the bearish territory, and the money flow does want to pull back. So if that VWAP continues to favor bearish here, our momentum will continue to weaken, and that price action could continue lower as that money flow rejects away. Over on our 4 hour, we do have that bear flag possibility. We tried to break away from it, but then we bounce off the bottom of our other channel. So if you were hoping for that breakdown, you should have been watching for that bounce, and hopefully if you caught that bounce, you got in and rode it up. Now we are kind of retracing some of those gains, but again, that doesn't mean we had to break down. That just invalidates that bearish break scenario. That was about our third or fourth touch, depending on how you want to look at this channel, to that bottom range. So this would be where you would expect us to break down. If we do not break down soon, we could invalidate the pattern, as remember, no pattern's 100%. Stochastic does want to push forward. VWAP is in the bullish territory with higher highs and higher lows, causing momentum to push higher. If that VWAP can remain more bullish, money flow could flip bullishly and give us some further strength. Over on our 2 hour, we are starting to round away here. I would just watch that. If we do round and break our 31.954, then we could continue lower. Stochastic is starting to round away, RSI is pulling back, momentum is starting to taper off as that VWAP sells off. If that VWAP continues lower, momentum will continue to weaken, and we can see price action break down. Our money flow is in the bearish territory due to that VWAP starting to pull back. So if that VWAP does break down, momentum will start to reject away, and we will see further bearish momentum on that money flow, which could end up weakening those higher time frames, as remember, the lower time frames do lead the higher time frames. Over on our 1 hour here, stochastic is pulling back, RSI is pulling back, momentum's rounding away, as our VWAP favors more bearish with lower lows and lower highs. If that VWAP continues to favor bearish, momentum will continue to weaken, and that money flow could break down, and we could see a drop away from that. If we zoom in, our lower EMAs are trying to push above the higher EMAs, so our green and blue want to run up, but we are starting to round, and we are struggling to hold above that green EMA. If we cannot make it bounce soon, then we could continue lower, push toward 31,954. If we do that, just exercise caution and watch for that break, because that break could be invalidated, as we do have a bit of a gap above us, and usually, like we said, gaps do have an 80% possibility to fill. Over on Ankr for the daily, we are starting to break up away from our inverted head and, or our head and shoulders, slanted head and shoulders. I will delete this. Oops, wrong thing. So hopefully delete the head and shoulders. We'll delete our breakdown point. This could end up breaking us lower if we're not careful. We do have a little bit of an indecision candle here on the daily. So this does show that we're not too sure where we want to go yet. That VWAP does want to push up. Momentum is pretty flat, so I would watch that VWAP close. Our VWAP needs to break bullish if that momentum is going to push higher and give that money flow strength. Over on our 4 hour, we are hitting our EMA, that 300 EMA, and we did make a rejection, so that could end up breaking us lower and pushing us down toward our 42.89 and our 40.49 if we are not careful. That VWAP does want to pull back, stochastic is trying to push forward, RSI wants to pull back, momentum is starting to round away, and the money flow is bullish, but if that VWAP breaks down, we will see momentum start to round away, and that could cause us to sell off here. Over on the 2 hour, we are above that 300 EMA, so that is positive. We need to hold above this EMA if we're going to continue further. Stochastic does want to pull back, momentum is starting to round away, that VWAP is starting to break down, and our money flow is in the bearish territory. So if that VWAP cannot sustain bullish momentum, we will see that momentum round away, and money flow would reject neutral. That would cause us to break our EMA and push lower. I would watch for that, as we do have a long upper shadow, and it is red, so I would watch for a breakdown. We did have a gap to fill, snapped up, fill the gap, and now we are starting to lose the momentum there. Over on this 1 hour, we have a lot of indecision candles, so that's showing a lot of weakness in the market right now. Our EMA bands are also very close together. Stochastic is weakening, RSI is weakening, so that could end up breaking us lower as we are slipping away, despite trying to make these green candles. These are more long upper shadows that could end up breaking us lower, or dragonfly candles. Momentum is pulling back, that VWAP has lower highs, so if it breaks for a lower low, we likely will see momentum pull back, and that money flow could end up selling off. I would watch, as that could end up weakening those higher time frames then. Over on XRP for the daily, we did try to make that run up to 54, and now we're pretty indecisive. This could be a long upper shadow here as well, as we have this longer wick here. We do have a wick below us, so it is trying to make a doji. If we do see the body kind of pull forward, we could see some sort of doji, but that's not very likely right now, as this is where it opened, this is where it's trying to close. Mostly you would see that on a red candle. Our stochastic does want to pull back, RSI is starting to weaken as a result, so if that stochastic breaks for a bearish trend, our RSI likely will continue lower. VWAP does have lower highs, and that is causing that momentum to start to weaken and get a red dot. If that VWAP continues and breaks through that neutral, momentum likely will break down, and money flow could end up rejecting away, so I would exercise caution there. Over on our 4 hour, we did try to break that 300 EMA, and we got rejected by that EMA. Currently, we are trying to wick through it, but again, that's a long upper shadow. We have a lot of those tonight. RSI does want to pull back, stochastic wants a round. That VWAP is trying to break into the bullish territory, but we need a higher low with a higher high to create a bullish trend if our momentum will push forward, and then the money flow would then gain strength. That would give us the chance to break our EMA. But again, this is a long upper shadow. I would watch for a followed red candle. If we follow with a red candle and break that red EMA level, then we could still see the double top bring us lower, even though we tried to invalidate it. So I am going to delete it because it is technically invalidated, but I would still watch for a breakdown. Over on the 2 hour here, we are starting to round away. We did have a reversal arrow that was indicative of a breakdown. We were running up, so the opposite of a run up usually is a retracement down. Stochastic is pulling back, RSI is starting to weaken. That VWAP does want to make a bounce off that neutral or yellow wave. So if that yellow wave can continue above this neutral, momentum, our blue wave, could continue further, and our money flow, the red wave, could continue to gain strength and try to break neutral. If that does happen, then we could see a run up toward our 54 again. We do have a wick below us though, so I would just watch. Usually candle wicks are like candle gaps. They do have a chance to fill. We do have lower highs here. If we come down to that purple EMA, make a bounce and then make another lower high, we could make a descending triangle and that could end up breaking us down. So I would exercise caution on that. That descending triangle probably would bring us right around that EMA of our 52, 53 area. And if we lose that, that's where we could end up continuing lower. Our stochastic is pulling back. RSI is starting to round away with that stochastic, so if our stochastic does not rebound, our RSI likely will start to drop away and weaken price action. Our VWAP is starting to favor more bearish, money flow is pushing down, and momentum is weakening, so this 1 hour has it set up for further bearish momentum if that VWAP does not make a higher low. What we want to see here to continue forward is that VWAP make a higher low, break through our neutral, and make a higher high. If we do not do that and we start to pull away and continue to drop down with our VWAP and momentum, we likely will see those higher time frames continue to weaken. Over on ALGO for the daily, we do want to make like a, trying to look for chat, no one's there, but we are trying to make a symmetrical triangle. A symmetrical triangle does have a 50-50 chance to push you up or down. So this is probably the most bullish thing we have, because everything else just looks more bearish. We are also above our 300 EMA here. We did hit the top of our EMA band, but we got rejected. What we need to see is further continuation of bullish momentum here, break through that EMA, or at least make a bounce off our 300 EMA, and then continue forward. If we can do either of those things, then we could push to our 25 cents. However, if we break through this EMA to the downside again, that's where we could see our 1618 or our 1412. Our momentum, our blue wave, does want to push forward. Our VWAP, our yellow wave, is trying to favor more bullish here on that market cipher B, so that is positive. If that VWAP can continue to favor bullish, momentum could continue higher, and our money flow could go from being bearish red to flipping bullish into the green territory, and that could help continue us further. Our stochastic, the double line, does look like it wants to pull back. Our RSI is trying to push forward, but if our stochastic pulls back, the relative strength index, or RSI, will cause price action to reject. Again, it's 50-50, and it could break you pretty decently low, because we did get that breakdown. And when you get a breakdown, then you make your symmetrical triangle. You do create a bear pendant that can break you lower. And the bullish scenario is only half of your triangle, so there's quite a difference in the two movements. Our stochastic does want to round away here on the 4 hour. RSI is starting to pull back, momentum is starting to round, VWAP has lower highs, and the money flow is bullish, but looks like it could pull back. So watch that VWAP close. If that VWAP or yellow wave does break that neutral, then our momentum and money flow could end up breaking lower. Over on the 2 hour here, we are continuing to run forward. Just exercise caution. This could create a rising channel if we're not careful, and rising channels, as we cover in our Mastering the Trade series, do end up breaking you lower. Our stochastic is pulling back. That's our double line. So if that stochastic continues to pull back, our relative strength index, or RSI, could continue to weaken, and then we could see price action fall below our resistance area. Again, this is our Fibonacci retracement zone. We cover how to set that up in the series as well, but we could break that level. It's a mathematically calculated zone, and if we break that support, we could continue to our 300 EMA. That is that black line. Our stochastic is starting to pull back, our double line, so we have our orange above blue. That does give us a bearish cross that does want to bring us lower. Bearish does mean you are going to go down, bullish means you are going to go up. RSI is pulling back. That red line is our relative strength index. As we see those weaken, we will see price action react negative. Momentum does want to round away. That VWAP was favoring the bullish territory, that yellow wave, which gave our money flow the green wave, the strength it needed to cross from being red to green, but now our VWAP has a lower low. If we see lower lows with lower highs here, money flow will continue to weaken, and then we will have the potential to break lower. Again, watch for a hang up on that EMA level. We need to continue to bounce. Right now on the 1 hour, you do see the EMA band shift. So you see our lower EMAs are above our higher EMAs. That is positive because if we can continue in this bullish scenario, that can lead the higher time frames forward. You do see the 2 hours trying to get there, so we need this to continue. Our momentum does want to round away here. Our stochastic is pulling back with the orange line above blue, but it's starting to bend up. So watch it close as it could try to make a bounce. And if it does make a bounce here, RSI could push forward and we could see price action make it bounce as well. Our VWAP does have a strong low and we are struggling with our neutral. So that VWAP needs to break that neutral and push higher if our momentum's going to push up and our money flow is going to make it bounce forward. If that VWAP does not do that, and we see lower highs with lower lows here, money flow likely will flip into the bearish territory, and if it remains in that bearish territory for several candles, those higher time frames will start to weaken as well, and then we can make a push down. Real quick, let me know if there's any other coin you'd like to see me cover. We did kind of cover everything else already, so if there's nothing else you would like to see me cover, we can end the video here. However, if there's a coin you're interested in, just shoot a comment in the chat. I'll give you a second, I'll take a drink of water, and then we'll see if there's anything you'd like me to cover. And if there is nothing else you'd like me to cover, I'd just like to say have a great night, have a great Memorial Day. Hopefully you had a decent day. Okay, so have a great night.